Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday, it's 8 o'clock, and it's Let's Talk. And I'm Kath Lloyd from Make the Change, just in case you didn't know who I was by now. So, tonight's Let's Talk is called Muscle Memory. Okay, now we hear lots about muscle memory to do with, our biceps, triceps, our heart, and to keep them all active, and especially in terms of the sports world, and how sports people need to learn actions to so that they start to become automatic, which is basically what we do when we are growing up and we're learning how to walk and to talk, and because and to drive, because they all become automatic reactions, don't they? But our brain is, I know it's not a muscle, it's like a processing unit, isn't it, about our thoughts, our feelings, our visions, our sounds, basically our surroundings and the environment that we're living in. And but why am I calling this session muscle memory? Even though the brain isn't a muscle, it's an organ, isn't it? Well, the brain houses our memories, doesn't it? And how many times have you eaten something and you thought, oh, that takes me back to my childhood, or you hear a song, or you eat a food, or you smell something. And I remember, when I was little and my mum had shingles and she was in bed, and she said, oh, I just happened to go into her room for whatever reason, and she says, oh, Kath, will you just paint this on my rash for me? And it absolutely stunk, a really, really strong smell. And I could smell it in my nostrils. And then probably about 10 years ago, I smelt that exact smell. I don't know what it was now, but I smelt that exact smell, and it took me right back to that day when I was painting this paint on my mum's rash. And so, what we're talking about here for memories is really about our neurons. And so, in our brain, we've got about 86 billion neurons, which are basically transmitters, and which all connect up together and send signals through our brain, of all the things that we're hearing, listening, smelling, to then give us information about how we're going to react to that. But also, what's really interesting is how many neurons we actually have in the lining of our stomach and our gut. And so there's about 100 million neurons, which sends information up to the brain. And actually the neurons in the gut are really interesting ones, because the stomach and the gut can work independently of the brain. So things like digestion, vomiting, diarrhea, urinating, they are all governed by our gut, and tell our brain that we want to go because they are too full. And so the information processing between the brain and our stomach and our gut are work very, very well together. So we all know the saying, don't we? Had this gut feeling that it was going to be a bad day, or had a gut feeling that something good wasn't going to happen. And basically, that's our body and our brain working together. Now, sometimes, our body is telling our brain that we're not well, that we've eaten something bad, or we've got an infection, and so then we know what to do with it. But other times it's, they work very well together if we are putting ourselves in a lot of stress, in a stressful situation, or an excited situation where we get butterflies in our stomach, and you know, it's sending signals to the rest of our body to say, hang on a minute, we need to use our body in a slightly different way to be able to run away or to concentrate on what we need to concentrate on. And so this is why it's really important not just to listen to what's going on up in here, but also to listen to what's going on, you know, in our, what they call our secondary brain, which is in our stomach and our gut. Okay, now also in our gut we have a lot of other enzymes and hormones, and one of them is serotonin. And we know that serotonin is the enzyme or hormone which is about our mood, our well-being, our happiness. Also, it sends information through the body, and so is a very, very important hormone. And actually this serotonin is, you know, from reading up on it, is really quite an interesting one, because we have so much serotonin, you know, not just in the brain but in our stomach as well. But you know, apparently, I'm not a scientist so I don't know, I'm only saying what I've read, is that the serotonin that is generated in our stomach and sends information into the blood system doesn't actually cross the blood-brain barrier, but obviously the signals going through. So that's quite interesting in how is stress and depression treated, because basically, you know, antidepressants are you know, contain serotonin, which is going to help our mood, which is going to help us feel better. And you know, also it's, you know, if we're feeling better about ourselves and our mood is better, we're going to feel a lot more relaxed. And so I know that from you know, personal circumstances in the family, that serotonin is being prescribed to help tension in the neck from possible Parkinson's disease, to help reduce the stress and the strain. So that's a very interesting thing about our bodies as well. So how can we try and help our memory management or our muscle management a lot more easily? Well, it's about using things around us to help ourselves to become happier and healthier and to eat better, so that we can function more effectively. Because if we're happier, we spread that happiness, and subconsciously other people pick that up. It's just like, you know, if you wake up in the morning and you're in a bad mood, or you've had a bad dream or a rough night's sleep, and you know, your partner can easily pick that information up. And those of you who are teachers out there, you know, you go into school, or you know, whatever class you might be teaching, and your mood is soon picked up by your students. Just as one of your students that comes into your class has a bad mood on, and it can totally change the relationship, the relationship and the mood that's going on in the classroom. And or if a person who is bright and breezy comes in, that can change the mood. So it's very, very important, you know, when people talk about the laws of attraction, okay, it doesn't mean to say that you go out and you disassociate everybody who doesn't bring you constant happiness, because those people may not have the right state of mind to support the happiness side of you perhaps, but they will be doing or should be doing something good and positive to help you, just like you will help them. So we're all bouncing off each other. But the laws of attraction is about, if you want to, you know, improve your business, if you want to improve your fitness levels, if you want to improve your education levels, if you are around the people who are already doing that, then that's their state of mind, their attitude to whatever it is that is specific to what you are sort of achieving, will rub off on you and have a great influence on you. And so I'm digressing from, I think, what I was originally doing. But it's also about how else we can improve our memory, or improve the muscle memory. And this is about using experiences to help you do that. So if you want to improve your mood, then, you know, some people will listen to music that does that, or use memories that are good for them, that make them feel good about themselves, to help stimulate that chain of memory that will then give you the serotonin levels that will help you go through your day. And so there's lots of different things that you can do about it. At the weekend, a friend of mine was struggling with you know, her meditation and her prayer, and so we did a little exercise just for about 5 minutes on quiet time, which I was talking about the other week, and I took her through a little exercise, and it only took a few minutes for her to really start to, you know, change her state, become a lot more peaceful. It helped stop the chatter going on inside of her head. And then she said to me at the end of the weekend that she's had practiced it a couple of times, and she already felt a lot better and a lot calmer and not so agitated. So, you know, and that was using things like, you know, just what was around us. I asked her to listen to the sounds after we'd done some breathing, to listen to the sounds that are about her, to feel, you know, have a think about what she could feel, have a think about what she could smell. And so, you know, it was using the environment to help her stimulate the right sensation so that she could be in a better state for herself. And of course, using past memories is going to do exactly the same thing, because, and it's easy visualization, because you know that past memory, you haven't got to conjure anything up. And so you're less likely to be distracted, and so that you can get on with what it is that you want to be doing. And so it's important, you know, to understand how our body works so that you can use it in the right way. So if something that you are eating or drinking doesn't make you feel good, well, doesn't it make sense to stop eating or drinking it? Yeah? Unfortunately, it gets a bit more difficult if it's something that has always given you a great feeling before. But our bodies change as we get older, don't they? Another friend of mine, you know, who is about 10 years older than me, and she came over for a meal, we cooked a meal, sat down and started eating it, and suddenly she started sneezing, continual sneezing. And I said, what's going on? I've never seen this before. She goes, oh no, it's too much salt in my diet. So say, you know, perhaps we did a curry and we used a jar to make the sauce. for her and her body at this time in her life, the salt that was in that process jar was too much for her body to take, and so her body reacted to it by sneezing. I've never seen that before in my life. Sorry, heard it really and seen it before in my life. But through experimentation, she cut out the salt and she didn't get the sneezing. So that is a reaction to something, and that is our body telling us that we shouldn't be eating that. My sister, for example, can't eat shellfish. It gives her boils, and so it makes her feel very, very unwell. Again, it's another example of how things affect our body, and our body telling our brain that it's not connecting properly. So what are you going to do to develop your brain body memory to make it work effectively for you? Because at the end of the day, we want to be working the best way that we can, don't we, at the end of the day? So just, before we end here, nice to see you, David. Thanks for joining us. And also, I just want to remind people that I do have a top 10 tips to keeping yourself sane. Now, I'm not saying that, to request it that you've got to have a huge amount of insanity inside of you, but it is just my tips in how I've helped myself to keep myself sane, things that I do every day. Maybe things that get left behind a little bit sometimes because, sometimes we go through parts in our life where it is difficult to keep up all your little regimes, but it's, sometimes we have to adapt them slightly so that we can do the majority of it and keep ourselves on a best balance that we can do. So I will put a link up for that on the comments at the end of this video. So if you do want to subscribe to it, and it is free, because I think they are just important things in life anyway, about how to keep healthy as possible and to live as well as possible. So happy muscle memory. And I will speak to you again live at 8 o'clock next Wednesday, which I think is the 1st of August. I cannot believe it that we're nearly over the halfway mark. Well, we are over the halfway mark of 2018 already. And, just because we're over that halfway mark, it doesn't mean to say that it's too late to start making a difference to your year. So I think next week I'm going to recap on perhaps goal setting and action planning to make the most of the rest of 2018, because let's face it, why do we only have to do action planning at the beginning of the year? We don't. We have to be reassessing where we are in life, how we're moving forwards, how influences are affecting you, and how you need to adapt to them, because sometimes we can't terminate those influences. We have to work with them and manage the best that we can do. So next week I'm going to be recapping on goal setting, action planning, organising where you are at this moment, and so that you can make the most of the rest of the year that we've got and moving into the following years of 2019. So have a lovely evening. It's been lovely to chat with you. Again, this evening it's going to be another warm night, so have your fans on, have your fluids, have a good night, and bye bye.